There comes a time in a man's life when noise no longer excites him. The arguments, the chasing, the constant need to be seen, they lose their taste. And in that silence, he begins to discover something rare, the power of walking away. Not out of pride, not to prove a point, but because peace has finally become more valuable than presence. When a man walks away, it's not a sudden decision. It's a quiet understanding that staying is costing him his soul. He realizes that not every battle deserves his energy, and not every person deserves front-row access to his emotions. At first, it feels unnatural, because he's been taught to fight, to fix, to explain, to keep trying until he bleeds understanding into someone who never cared to listen. But then something shifts. He gets tired, not of love, but of being unseen in love. Tired of giving peace to those who feed on chaos. Tired of proving his worth to people who only noticed him when he stopped. And in that quiet exhaustion, he chooses stillness. He walks away. Point 1, the awakening. The first step in walking away is not physical, it's emotional. It's when a man finally accepts that love shouldn't require self-destruction. He stops chasing closure. He stops explaining himself to people committed to misunderstanding him. He stops measuring his value by how much he's missed. He learns that walking away is not losing. It's alignment, because sometimes peace demands distance. And when he starts pulling back, people notice. Not because he announces it, but because his energy changes. The man who once reacted to every message now takes hours, sometimes days, to reply. Not out of ego, but because he's learning that silence can be more powerful than words. His absence speaks. It says, I'm done negotiating my worth. It says, I'd rather be alone in peace than surrounded in confusion. That's when people who once took him for granted begin to feel something unfamiliar. The void of his presence. Because walking away doesn't just remove a person, it removes the energy they fed on. Point 2, the emotional discipline. Walking away isn't easy. It requires emotional discipline. The ability to control your reaction in moments you want to scream your truth. The strength to let someone believe you're cold, when in reality, you're protecting your peace. That's the hardest part. Not speaking, not explaining, not defending. Just walking quietly. Because silence isn't weakness. It's control. And in that control lies power, the kind that no one can manipulate. When you walk away, you stop being predictable. You stop being emotionally available for people who never showed up for you. You start investing that energy into yourself, your growth, your goals, your peace. And that shift doesn't go unnoticed. People can feel when you've detached. They can sense when your energy no longer bends toward them. They start to wonder, did he stop caring? No, he just started caring about himself. Point 3, the redirection. Once he walks away, something miraculous happens. His focus returns. The time he once wasted on validation now becomes his building ground. He begins to channel his energy into purpose. And purpose has a way of healing what pain once created. He no longer needs attention to feel valuable. He doesn't chase. He attracts. Because his silence, his growth, his new peace, it speaks louder than any declaration could. That's when the world begins to respond differently. Opportunities appear where pain once lived. Peace becomes magnetic. And for the first time in a long time, he feels whole. When a man truly walks away, he leaves behind more than silence. He leaves behind an echo that doesn't fade quickly because it's not built from noise, it's built from presence. You see, real presence isn't loud. It's not in constant messages, calls, or explanations. It's in how someone's energy lingers even after they're gone. And that's what she begins to feel. At first, she mistakes his silence for strategy. Thinks he's trying to make her miss him, trying to play a game. But games end. Silence doesn't. Because his silence isn't about her anymore. It's about him. It's not absence for attention. It's absence for alignment. And that's what makes it different. It carries peace, not pain. It holds stillness, not bitterness. There comes a day when she scrolls past his profile, noticing that something feels different, something unexplainable. His eyes don't look like they're waiting anymore. His smile doesn't carry longing anymore. It carries peace, the kind that doesn't beg to be understood. And that's when realization hits her. Not regret, not yet, but awareness. The awareness that the man who once revolved around her now revolves around his purpose. And that kind of energy, once lost, can't be recreated. Because what women often misunderstand is this. When a man truly evolves, he doesn't return for closure. He becomes the closure. Point 5. The weight of stillness. There's a different kind of strength in stillness. One that doesn't fight, doesn't chase, doesn't prove. It simply is. And that kind of energy confuses the world. Because we're taught that power must always be visible. But real power? It's quiet. It's control over chaos. It's knowing when to speak and when to simply smile and walk away. The man who learns stillness becomes untouchable. Not because he's cold, but because he's found something sacred, inner peace. He realizes that peace is not something you find in people. It's something you protect from people. And that stillness becomes magnetic. It draws respect, because when a man no longer reacts, he forces others to face their own noise. They begin to wonder, why doesn't he argue anymore? Why doesn't he care if I leave? What they don't understand is, he already did care, deeply, but he cared enough to stop sacrificing his peace for people who never offered theirs. Stillness isn't a sign of detachment. It's the proof of emotional maturity. The moment when a man no longer chases control, because he is control. Point 6. The mirror of growth. When he walks away, he doesn't just create distance. He creates reflection. His growth becomes a mirror that others can't ignore. Because peace, when displayed naturally, exposes chaos in others. She starts to notice it in small ways. The way he talks less, but says more. The way his silence feels heavy with understanding. The way his confidence no longer needs validation. It's unsettling. Not because he's changed too much, but because he's changed exactly how she never expected. He's not colder. He's calmer. He's not detached. He's disciplined. And that difference shakes something in her that words can't reach. Because when a man grows quietly, his silence becomes a reflection of everything they once ignored in him. It's not revenge, it's revelation. Point 7. The redefinition of value. He used to think value came from being wanted. Now he understands value comes from being unavailable to the wrong energy. Walking away taught him that peace is the highest currency, and not everyone can afford his presence anymore. He no longer needs to be remembered. He needs to be respected. And respect doesn't come from chasing. It comes from choosing. So he chooses differently now. He spends time where he's valued, not where he's validated. He speaks only when it adds peace, not when it demands explanation. He walks in rooms with quiet confidence, not because he wants attention, but because he no longer needs it. That's the power of walking away. It doesn't just change how the world sees you. It changes how you see the world. He realizes that peace was never found in her arms, but in his own understanding. That love was never about possession, but about alignment. And when he finally sees that, he doesn't look back anymore. Not out of pride, but out of peace.